Welcome back. As we finish this last session on the art of romance, I want to encourage you to listen intently on how to become an even more responsive and gracious spouse. Remember this challenge as you listen to this session. What came instinctively when you were dating must now become a discipline if you want to keep the flames of your marriage alive and well.
Chapter 8. This woman is also spontaneous. She said, "Oh, that you were like a brother to me, who nursed at my mother's breast, and if I found you outdoors, I would kiss you, and no one would despise me." In Israel, you don't kiss your mate outside. It's considered rude. But if it's your brother, you can. This woman says that the sexual conventions of my nation are far too narrow for me. There's things I'd like to do to you, but I can't because our culture won't let me. I wish you were my brother. I would grab you outside and I would kiss you. And in verse 2, I would lead you and bring you in the house of my mother who used to instruct me. You know why it says used to instruct me? Because there's something in women that tends to think this is evil behavior. A woman being like this. She said, I would take you in the house of my mother who used to teach me the Bible. This is biblical behavior. And in verse 2, I would give you spiced wine to drink from the juice of my pomegranate. See also the hills of Bether, hill of frankincense, mountain of myrrh. Gracious. Ladies, are you with me here? This woman has a man. Now, fellas, I know all women want me to say something right here, so I'll say it. A lot of women are saying, I would love to be responsive and aggressive and creative and spontaneous. I'd love to mess with this guy's mind. If I could get a husband that would praise me and compliment me and not take me for granted, no woman wants to sanction cruel behavior by great sex. If you'll be that kind of husband that'll be tender, it's a lot easier for a wife to be responsive and exciting. See, marriage is like tennis. You ever played tennis? Where you're going to volley to somebody and you go boom, boom, and they just let it go. Boom, boom, psh. Hits the back fence. Boom, boom, psh, psh. After a while, you quit. If they're not going to volley back, I'm not going to play. And that's why a lot of times a man will try to be tender. There's no response. A woman be exciting. There's no response. I had a woman tell me one time about covering the inside of her house with candles to try to light a fire of romance with her husband. She said he just walked in, kind of sniffed, rolled over, and went to sleep. And she never finished her statement. The tears came to her eyes and she cried. How painful. Or you ever played tennis where you volley, boom, boom, and somebody goes to the net and hits it back at your face about 60 miles an hour? See, this is the way marriage is. It's awful tough for one of the mates to be a certain way when you've got passivity on the other end, or when you've got hostility on the other end. Two have to play this game. A man can be tender to what he knows is a responsive woman. A woman can be responsive to what she knows is a tender man. Let me tell you something about marriage. We're to love each other unconditionally. However, you know what I've discovered? That deities love unconditionally a lot better than humans. You'll find that your mate can love you unconditionally if you will build a little steam and a little appreciation in them. Well, in verse 3, just like when she was a young girl, let his left hand be under my head and his right hand embrace me. And the man in verse 4 acknowledges that this kind of love is aroused in time. You just don't make it happen. It awakens in time. Now, that's what romance is meant to be. And let me just give you a little real quick sermon within a sermon. Whenever you don't have responsiveness whenever you don't have on the part of a man tenderness, let me show you how to have an affair. I have watched adultery happen over my career over and over and over again. And it's called the E's because each term begins with the letter E. This is the E's of affair. That first, you have the elimination in a home of tenderness and responsiveness. The couple's just going through the motions. They eliminate the things that they got married because they wanted it the most. Secondly, you go from elimination to an encounter. One of the mates meets a girl. She meets a man. And it's just an innocent encounter. And little do they realize that there is an enjoyment of something. Because the fact is that man looks at her and says, you know, you are so sharp in your job. Have you considered going and getting an MBA? Oh, no. You really ought to get one because I think you do a great job. Well, he doesn't realize that he just provided a hormone that she got cut off from by her husband. That woman looks to that man and says, you know, I can't imagine why you haven't risen any higher than you are. You do what you do better than anybody around this place. Now, she didn't realize she just provided something that this person's desperate of. An encounter and an enjoyment of something. And then what happens is you now start crossing bridges. And now you have what's called expediting. The man makes sure he goes by that desk periodically and finds a reason to stop and talk to that woman because that felt so good in what she said. That woman makes sure that she eats at that same restaurant every Tuesday because she knows he's going to be there. It's purely platonic, but it felt so good. They've built Fantasy Island here, see? But what happens next is deadly. That they move from the platonic to the real. And what happens is they do it kind of cautiously. It's kind of like volleying in a court. You know, I feel so good just being around you. Boom, boom. See what she does. Well, not as good as I feel. Boom, boom. Really? Boom, boom. Really? Boom, boom. You know, sometimes I wish I could talk to my wife like I do to you. Boom, boom. And if she bails on him, he can just claim that he was insensitive. But he's testing the waters. Do you really? Boom, boom. I really do. Boom, boom. You know, if my husband was anything like you, I'd be a lot happier. Boom, boom. You see where we're going? What you do is you expedite it, and you're one step away now from an experience. This is why the Apostle Paul said this. Paul said, do not defraud each other except by agreement for a season to devote yourselves to prayer, but come together soon, lest Satan tempt you for your lack of self-control. The man doesn't have authority over his own body. The wife does. And the wife doesn't have authority over her own body, but the husband does. Let a man fulfill his duty to his wife, and a wife to her husband. There are needs that we need to be sensitive to meet in each other because Satan will supply that need if it's not met by our mates. Well, what I want to do here in the conclusion, I want to give you just a number of things about romance. You just write them down. What makes for great romance? There's a number of them. Number one, learn to be courteous. You can't be romantic to somebody that is not courteous because it appears now to be manipulation. Be nice to each other. Pull out chairs. Put your arm on a woman's, the small of her back when she goes through a door. Take your husband's elbow. I love it whenever I leave a restaurant sometimes, and my wife will just take my hand. I still feel like a letterman, you know. She'll just take my hand. Just be courteous to each other. Secondly, be together. Do y'all have a date night? When is your date night? My wife and I take a Tuesday or a Wednesday night, and we try to make an event. When I say a date night, that's not the drive-through. You want to bathe, okay? You want to put on a shirt that doesn't have anything about a chili cook-off. Don't wear a gimme hat. You vacuum out the car, and you get psyched up. All right, here we go, date night. We can do it. Come on. Gonna have a good time. And I'm gonna listen to her. I'm gonna pull out her chair. I'm gonna treat her like somebody. And if you go out to Outback, make sure ESPN is behind you, not behind her. Irritates a woman to no end. Oh, I think the kids are going. Be together. Number 3, be expressive. Do you tell each other how you feel? Just the words, I love you. Express yourself to your mate. Fourthly, be affectionate. It's called love with skin on it. Somebody told my wife somewhere, I don't know who told her, but I'm glad they did, that whenever you hug your mate, you have a hemoglobin exchange and it makes you healthier. I don't know if it's true or not, but every once in a while she'll come through the house going, hemoglobin, 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 hemoglobin. And when I say affection, fellows, that's non-sexual affection. You don't be affectionate with a price tag or an asterisk. You just be affectionate to your mate. You say, well, I'm not that affectionate, Tom. Change. Number 5, be creative. Couples use more creativity in a game of Monopoly than they will in loving their mates. Think about what you can do to be exciting. One time I'm out jogging with my youth director. We're out running, and all of a sudden he starts speeding up. And I said, what are you doing? He says, I got to get home. How come? He said, Karen wrote me a note. I said, Karen's always writing you notes. He said, she wrote it with lipstick on the mirror. It's a thinking woman. Spontaneity is always perceived as care. You know that? Whenever you're spontaneous, it's always perceived as care of somebody. When there's no reason, you just do it. I tell you what, my wife, one of the things that I do that can so excite my wife is if I go to like an Albertsons, I'll come back to the house and you do what is the most exciting thing that you can do to a woman. It's this right here. Guess what I've got? I've got a sussy for you. Now this is a 50-year-old woman. She starts doing this. What? And I'll get a little 99-cent plant. See? It's just being creative, leaving notes where you wouldn't think them, just to delight them. Put this down. Be thoughtful. Sometimes just to delight her, I'll just call her on a cell phone. Coming home, can I pick you up anything? Anything I can do for you? Y'all know who Laura Schlesinger is? She, long cry from what we might call a Christian counselor, but she has some interesting stuff. Laura Schlesinger once said, it was a great quote, she said, to me, the sound of my husband vacuuming is foreplay. Beautiful. Just being thoughtful and helpful around the house. Write this down. Be energetic. Whenever there are times of dates or lovemaking, to put something into it. to minister to your mate, to use your best. You know, my son Benjamin, he was in the military as a sniper. Now he's a federal agent. And he was a hopeless romantic. He met this girl named Amanda, that's now my daughter-in-law. And he was overwhelmed by her. She is a little doll. She is so beautiful. And she's about 5 feet tall. You know there's a size 0? Did y'all know that? That's a fact. She's a size 0. She's so little and small. Big mane of just curly, beautiful brown hair. And she just captured his heart. And girl never made a B in her entire life. She never made a B. And I told her one time, I said, you and Ben are going to enjoy each other because he never made too many B's either. He didn't. And Ben had to have this woman. Now the problem with men go after women like hunters go after deer. They do what they have to do to get them, take them home, put them on the wall, show them off. And then they forget doing it. One time, Benjamin, he said, I want y'all out of the house. And me and Teresa left the house, and he decorated the entirety of the house on the inside with candles. It was just all candles. And he cooked. Ben's a pretty good cook, and he cooked for her. And then he gave her 12 roses. And each rose was hand-picked, that it was all about to open. And down inside of each rose, he put a love note or a little gift. And the rose opened up and handed it to her. Huh? Now, you know what he was doing right there? He's a sniper. And I said to him, Ben, that ain't bad. But it's a heck of an encore because you're going to have to do that now. Boy, you set the bar right there. Lastly, be insightful to your mate. Gary Chapman wrote a book called The Love Languages. It's a good book. I don't know if you've read it. It's really good. We have different ways that we love each other. Some of us love affection. Some of us love words of encouragement. Some of us love deeds of service. Others of us love gifts. What's the particular mate that God gave you? How do they interpret love? Be insightful. Learn your mate. My wife, her love language is deeds of service. She likes me being thoughtful, which stretches me because my love language is affection. I just love to put my hands all over the woman. All right? And instead, I have to go do all these service acts. But that's what sanctifies you. So learn your mate. See, that's the sweetness of why we got married. Listen, give you a good illustration. You ever been on a cruise? Cruises are fun. You just get away with your mate in a pleasing, pretty place. My wife and I periodically take cruises. And we took one time, and the cruise line lost our luggage. They're supposed to take your luggage, deliver it to your door. They lost it. We launched out. We don't have any clothes. I go up on the top of the ship, and my wife is just kind of leaning on the rail. She's disconsolate. I said, baby, what's the matter? We don't have any clothes. We lost our luggage. I said, it's okay. We'll stop at one of these little islands. We buy whatever we need. It's no problem. She said, I know, but I had something special for you. What? She said, I had a new nightgown. I said, what kind, that I might pray more specifically? She said, it was red, and it was silk, and it hit me about right here. I said, red silk, huh? And I went to the purser of the ship, and I said, I want my luggage. I said, I'm going to kill you and all your crew. They found our luggage, and there was revival. Isn't that a great chapter? See, that's the norm. That's the norm. Pray with me here. Father in heaven, this is what we dreamed of. Men who complimented character and beauty and wanted them. Women that responded, that were creative and exciting. Fruits, new and old, who used their bodies to the delight of a husband. I pray, Lord, that in these marriages we wouldn't have one energetic mate and one absentee mate, but men would open up and declare to women their preciousness, that women would respond to delight, and that we would work at these things and be a joy, to be all that we imagined on the days that we made our vow. And Father, we'll ask it in Jesus' name and for His sake. Amen.
The 6 E's of an affair. I know that can sound negative, but every one of us knows someone who has been affected by an affair. Now, no one wakes up one day and says, I think I'm going to have an affair today. But the events that pave the way to one can quietly creep into our marriage if we don't look out for them. So be careful if you become indifferent or callous to your spouse, because you might be turning down the wrong road. Make a quick U-turn by bringing romance back into your relationship. As you share in your group time, I encourage you to have an open and honest dialogue about this issue. We only have one session left, so until then, have a great week.